Do you believe in signs and synchronicities? Have you experienced them in your own life before? Comment below and let me know. We need to talk about this. Hi, I'm Caroline, and this is The Intuitive Age. Today I want to discuss signs and synchronicities. So, first of all, what's the difference? What do I mean when I say signs and synchronicities? And then what they are and why I think they are important to pay attention to and talk about. So, first of all, signs and synchronicities, I think, is kind of like a rectangle and a square, in the sense that a sign can be a form of synchronicity showing up, like a square is a rectangle. But synchronicities don't necessarily have to show up as signs. So to me, signs are more specific, right? It's like a particular message about something. I got a sign. We'll get into the details of that. But basically, I think a sign is a specific message that comes from the universe or from spirit or from a spirit loved one or spirit guide or something like that, to give us direction or to give us hope or to give us comfort in response to something in particular. Whereas synchronicities are more just about being in the flow of abundance, being in a flow of connectivity and the life force energy that's kind of driving the divine order of everything that's going on. And so when we're experiencing synchronicities, it's like we see certain numbers, sometimes they don't have to have like this deep meaning behind the number, but we just see that same number over and over again. Or we, keep bumping into the same person, or we keep catching the train at the right exact time or something like that, where it's just things seem to be moving in synchrony, like we seem to be on track. We are always right where we need to be at the right moment for something else to happen. So, I think these things are really important to pay attention to. And I think they show up differently for us in different ways at different times, right? So for me, I know that I'm in the flow when I'm having a lot of synchronicities. I know that something is like shifting into place and into alignment when I'm experiencing a lot of synchronicities. But with those synchronicities, I don't always feel the need to like dig deeper into them, because a lot of times the content that comes up with the synchronicity isn't necessarily, sometimes it does have a deep meaning for sure, but a lot of times it's just like this like clicking, snapping of things moving in tune with each other. And so I don't need to go and like deeply reflect on every synchronicity that came up. Whereas signs for me are deeper. Signs come through as a much more clear message of like even just yes or no. When we're kind of asking a question, should I do this? Should I go here? And then, something happens and we feel that yes in our system, right? That can be a sign. But it can also be more specific things, like other times, you see the same numbers over and over again, for example, and you might start to think, wow, what does 444 mean? Maybe I should go look that up, right? Or seeing the same kind of bird over and over, or seeing, or even just having one experience where you saw a bird, or a bird was, chirping at you for 10 minutes straight, it may be worthwhile to go look up the animal medicine of that bird or the symbolic connections to that bird. Same as like signs from loved ones, right? It may be specific or it may be not, your, father who passed on may send you dimes because the two of you collected dimes together. But he may also just send you dimes, and you just know. That's just a sign from him. There's so much variance, I find, which I think is the coolest thing also, that our signs, my signs are different than yours. And, I see things in the clouds, and you may never be able to see things in the clouds, or you may find pennies from spirit all the time, and I don't really find pennies. That's just not one of my signs, It's amazing to me how unique the experience is, how tailored it is to each of us. And that's why I think it's so important that we pay attention to our signs and synchronicities, and that we talk about them too, because it's yet another one of those amazing aspects of the human experience that is so unique to each individual person that you could never know exactly what it's like to be anyone else, because down to your spiritual signals and intuitive hits and creative urges, like all of those things are super unique to each one of us. And so, but that's what makes it so interesting to hear as well, and so interesting for us to talk about, because there are always going to be overlaps and places where we can relate to one another, or we might be a sign in that as well, just finding out that somebody else shares the same synchronicity pattern with you or whatever. But to also be able to reflect and see how different the experiences are, because I think that entrains us not only to accept and acknowledge that these are real things that are happening, that we're not crazy, we're not being silly, we're not, we not just have our head in the clouds or whatever, that these things are real and that they're happening to anyone and everyone, especially those who are paying attention. And it even further for me clarifies how unique my experience is to me, and it validates my experience, right? And why I get the signs that I get, why I'm on the path that I'm on, and how it must be real, it must be true, it must be valid and worthwhile, because when I hear the stories of other people's signs and other people's paths and their journey to healing and self-discovery, it's amazing. I love hearing about it. But if I ever put myself in their position and say, oh, okay, well, what if I got that sign, or what if would those synchronicities be as meaningful to me? And my answer is always, no, that's not my path. I know what my signs are, and they're very clear, and they delight me and tickle me in a certain way that reminds me of who I am, reminds me of the point of all this, which is coming into alignment with who I am and my soul essence, and that it's a good thing that's different from every other person. As many similarities or commonalities that we may share, we are all so unique, and there's so much magic in that for me. And so I think it's really valuable to have space where we can share with each other our stories, or just sharing in the energy of being in the flow, right? Because also a lot of times the signs that I have, or the story I might try to tell about my signs and synchronicities, it's very hard to put some of these things to word. But I think if we focus more on just talking about the general experience of it and how it feels, how it made me feel to receive that sign, or to unpack that message, or how it feels to see the synchronicities and know that I'm in the flow, having safe space to talk about that, I think is so valuable and so important to us. So I definitely want to encourage you here to just comment below if you are in the flow, if you're experiencing synchronicities lately, or if you have before. And, of course, share any stories that you want to share about signs that you've received. or messages that you've received from others or anything like that, because that's why I'm here and that's what I want to talk about, because I am a person who lived, the first many years of my life not knowing who I could talk to about this stuff and not feeling safe to talk about my signs and my signals and synchronicities and all the things I was experiencing from as far back as I can remember. And that's a huge part of what I'm wanting to create with my work now and my content, and the platforms and everything that I'm offering is a safe space where we can talk about our spiritual journey and living this conscious, intuitive lifestyle, and bring it into the real world that we have to live in every day, right? Like, why not just expand our connection and conversation about these things out into the world, and welcome. I want to welcome you into this community with me if you feel called to share about these things too, because I think it's really important that we're able to come together and truly connect on this spiritual plane, right? In addition to connecting and doing all the things together, physically or online or whatever, making those connections on the spiritual plane by sharing our experiences and our feelings and messages and wisdom with each other. I think that's one of the most profoundly positive and effective things we can do for those of us who are wanting to continue this consciousness evolution on Earth, is to really open up and start talking about it. So yeah, please feel free to put comments below with your experiences. I would love to hear about them, or of course any questions you might have about signs and synchronicities or messages, spirit communication, intuition, healing. All these things are what I'm here for, but I am also here to hear from you. So I look forward to that for sure. And of course, thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing with anyone you know who would be interested in these topics as well. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the little notifications too. And I will be back with more soon. Bye.